Welcome to Paths to Prosperity, a podcast from the Saskatchewan Economic Development Alliance, where we explore the ideas, partnerships, and leadership shaping stronger communities across Saskatchewan. Hi, I'm Froese, and I've seen firsthand that prosperity doesn't happen in isolation. It happens when we connect the dots. Because when we connect people, ideas, and opportunities, we create real paths to prosperity. And today, we're exploring what happens when we move from silos to systems. What if Saskatchewan's biggest challenge isn't a lack of effort? What if it's not funding, not leadership, not even policy? What if the challenge is simpler than that? We're all working really hard, but maybe we're not working together. Saskatchewan has never lacked commitment. Across this province, communities are filled with capable leaders, passionate volunteers, and hard-working professionals. What's often missing isn't effort, it's integration. Too many of our policies, programs, and conversations live in separate silos. We have housing over here, healthcare over there, economic development somewhere else, reconciliation tucked into another room at another time. And the result? A province that feels like a collection of good intentions rather than a coherent system working towards a shared future. And that's why the question matters. Are we building silos or systems? Saskatchewan doesn't need more isolated programs chasing the same people through different doorways. It needs integrated ecosystems where housing, health, education, reconciliation, and economic development are understood as parts of the same reality. Silos might be easier to manage, but systems are better for people, states Brenda Herchmer from Grassroots Enterprises. And here's something else that's really important. Silos rarely exist because of bad leadership. They exist because of design. Funding streams reward narrow wins. Policy mandates divide responsibility. Reporting timelines don't align. Political cycles encourage short-term thinking. Municipalities manage infrastructure. Nonprofits manage services. Provincial departments manage policy. Federal agencies manage programs. And each piece of these may be working hard, but they're not always working together. And in Saskatchewan, fragmentation is amplified. Urban and rural communities, Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, northern and southern regions, all facing the same pressures. Housing, mental health, employment, access to services, but in different ways. And when institutions fail to connect the dots, it's the people who pay the price. Systems thinking can sound abstract, but it's really just a more honest way of describing how communities function. Because people don't live in silos. They experience poverty, reconciliation, education, and employment all at once. A housing crisis is also a health crisis. A youth engagement issue is also an economic development issue. When programs are designed apart from each other, people are forced to navigate those gaps. And that's why systems thinking is more practical than theoretical. It asks leaders to coordinate instead of duplicate, to share data instead of guard it, and to measure success by collective outcomes. And as Colleen Christopherson-Cote explains, if Saskatchewan wants to improve socio-economic outcomes, it has to view well-being and economic drivers as two sides of the same coin. The most powerful work happens at the table where all sectors of community are sitting together. And here in Saskatchewan, that could look like a housing strategy that includes health supports, an economic development plan that considers childcare and transit, a reconciliation strategy that shapes workforce development. Here's the opportunity. Saskatchewan is uniquely positioned to lead this shift. The province already has strong local leadership, active community organizations, respected Indigenous leaders, and a growing awareness that collaboration is no longer optional. Because reconciliation and economic development shouldn't live in separate rooms. As Milton Tootoosis puts it, Indigenous communities are not a risk. They are a source of resilience and innovation. They are also a source of investment capital. And when Indigenous leaders are included as full partners, everyone benefits. When rural communities are included, policy becomes more accurate and effective. As one rural mayor has put it, if the province is serious about growth, it has to design systems that work for small towns, not just cities. An integrated ecosystem isn't a new bureaucracy. It's a different way of leading. It means shared tables, shared priorities, and shared accountability. It means designing programs around real people's needs in practical terms. And that could look like cross-sector working groups, shared community data, joint planning, and leadership development. And as Brenda Herchmer says, when local and provincial leaders see themselves as part of the same ecosystem, the whole province becomes stronger. And we also need to listen to youth. Andrew John Lehman, a tech startup, a Yorkton youth leader, says adults talk about youth engagement, but they rarely design programs around our lives. So here's the real question for Saskatchewan. Can we afford not to think in systems? Because fragmentation wastes time, it wastes money, and it wastes trust. Systems thinking isn't about making everything bigger. It's about making everything more connected. If Saskatchewan wants a stronger future, it must reward collaboration as much as expertise. It must value connection as much as competence. It must recognize that the best solutions won't come from one organization working alone, but from many leaders choosing to act as one ecosystem. Because the province already has the people. Now it needs the courage to stop protecting silos and start building systems. So here's something to think about. Where in your work are you still operating in a silo? Where could you collaborate differently? Who should be at your table that isn't today? Because systems don't get built by policy alone, they get built by people. And maybe that's where Saskatchewan's next chapter begins. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Paths to Prosperity with Saskatchewan Economic Development Alliance. If today's conversation sparked new ideas, we invite you to subscribe, share this episode with your network, and help us grow the conversation across Saskatchewan and beyond. Visit pathstoprosperity.ca to explore more resources, learn about upcoming episodes, and let's stay connected. Your voice and your network help build stronger connections and stronger communities. I'm Crystal Froese. Thanks for listening to Paths to Prosperity.